Welcome to Voice Bootcamp, a global name in unified communication. Hello, my name is Faisal Khan, CEO and founder of voicebootcamp.com. In this chapter of self-study kit for deploying Cisco Unified Contact Center Enterprise with CVP 11.5, I'm going to discuss about the call flow. Now, call flow is one of the most important topic within UCCE. In order for you to understand the UCC components and how each component works together, and overall what is happening within your call center, it is extremely important for you to understand the call flow itself. Once you can have a clear picture of the call flow from end to end, you will have a lot of concept cleared, and you will also see that many topic that you are component that you're configuring as to why you're configuring that component. So having a good knowledge about the call flow is definitely an important. Now, call flow is basically a flow chart which is usually developed by based on business logic from the business unit of the company. So it's created by a call script, which is ICM routing script, a call script which are created using a compiler called script editor that we will show you later in the course. But it really follows a flowchart of a business logic that determine how the call is to be processed, and usually is developed by the business unit of the company. Now, you and I, the technical guy, we don't make that flowchart, although we can technically do it, but we don't get to decide that factor. Now, the purpose of any call flow, of course, is to allow the customer or the caller rather to connect to appropriate resources. And that resource could be sales agent if it's a sales call, support agent if it's a support call, and so and so. Creating a call script from a very simple business logic flowchart is not that complicated task. But the more complicated your flowchart is, the more complicated the script is going to be. So the call flow should be designed to ensure that the customer calls are answered the most effectively and timely fashion, because hey, nobody really wants to wait in a queue for 15 minutes or more. You need to let the customer know how long they will wait. You need to try to minimize as much as possible. So this is one of the most important, like I said, topic within the UCCE that one must understand. Now, the call flow itself goes through a development life cycle. It starts from it's a process. You start at somewhere and you finish at some point. So the first place where you start from a business unit team is to determine the business requirement, where it is developed by either the manager or the customer care department, customer service department, whichever team is responsible for figuring out how to deal with the customer calls. What should happen when the customer calls in? Who should be answered by, how long, what options are given to customers, all those menu driven options that you pretty much hear these days in a call center has to be first determined by the business unit. They will come up with that flow chart in either in Visio or some other third-party flow chart maker. Now, once the flow chart is configured, rather created and validated, then the engineers like you and I will come in and convert that. Once we understand the flow chart, convert that to a technical requirement. Once we have the technical requirement understanding process done, then we will actually create the script and then configure the system to support that script. Because of course, remember, when we're creating the script, there are many components that needs to be configured in the system to support that script. So we must do that in parallel. Once the script is created, we will do the rigorous testing to ensure that it matches the business requirement or the flowchart. And then once that is validated, signed off, we will go live and production. So these are the development life cycle for any software development, rather, but this is more focused on the call script. This is an example of a real-world flowchart. This was actually from a production network that currently one of my friends is working on. I have removed all sensitive information to ensure that it does not provide any company details. So I basically modified it. And what it is basically shows you the start of the call process. So customer calls in, it will start the process right here. it will do a validation check, like caller ID check. If the call came from a certain region, go here. If it comes from any of these two regions like Ontario or Quebec or rest of the Canada, it will go to CA, and then from there we'll decide if the call is for Toronto Voice Bootcamp or not. If it is for Toronto Voice Bootcamp, then the call will go this direction. If not, the call will go to this direction. And then as you notice, we will play a prompt right here, and then many more decision making process that we go through before we even hear the message, further messages. So each node that you see right here has a specific purpose and a logic behind that. And that decision, of course, or what is going to be asking the user, what action is going to take, are done by the business unit team. But our job is to program it. Now this is more, like I said, continuation of the flowchart. As you see, it start to grow bigger. The more complex a flowchart becomes, the more complex the scripting is going to be. But then again, once you have a problem, or if you have any issues, the logic is not working or the calculation is not working, then it's easier to pinpoint where that problem might be by looking at the flowchart. Now, once we understand, the technical guys understand the flowchart, then our job is to translate to technical requirement. So this is a script that we develop based on the flowchart, and we will program it, customize it, put whatever the technical requirements, parameters that is needed, and then we will validate and test the scripts. Now I'm gonna walk you through a few call flow examples, which can be quite sometimes for some people might be difficult to understand, but my recommendation is that keep watching this video over and over until you get to the point where you actually understand 50 to 80% of it. Now this is an example where a call is coming from a service provider such as PSTN or your VoIP connection to a voice gateway. So this is a Cisco 2900 or 2800 series router acting as voice gateway as well as VXML gateway. Now the VXML gateway, basically the router itself is a VXML browser. Now because the call, what we're going to do, we're going to send the calls to CVP. What the VXML gateway, what the router does in this scenario, it will send an HTTP request right here, HTTP request to the CVP server. Now CVP server, you notice this server right here has three or four different services running. One of the service is called VXML. Second, we have ICM service. 3, we have call server, which is subsystem. The call server is SIP service. Well, actually ICM service also falls into call servers. So these are, and then you might have also IVR server, which is very similar to VXML. So these services that are all either running in the same CVP server or a different CVP server, individualized. So anyway, right now we're going to stick to a single box solution. So the call will come in from HTTP request from the gateway into CVP server, and it's going to go to this request will go to the VXML process in step number 2. Now step number 3, the application which is running in the VXML server will send a message to the call server. In this case, from VXML server, the call will come to call server. In the call server, it will send a request for a label from the ICM. So from the VXML, it will send a call to ICM. ICM will send the calls to PG in step number 3. So server sends a message to the CVP call server requesting that CVP will basically dictating that CVP should request a label, a response from the ICM server. So step 4, CVP server will send ICM new call request via the voice response unit, peripheral interface manager, which is right here running on the PG, And this new request that is coming on in step number 4 invokes a new incoming route response that in turn invoke a routing script in the ICM. So by initiating this connection on step number 4, what you're doing, oh, look like a happy face. By initiating a connection on step number 4, what you're really technically doing, telling the ICM that, hey, I need a response to execute a script. ICM is going to look at the phone number and is going to try to execute whatever the script that phone number is associated with. Remember the phone number that the user usually dial. So that is step number 4. A new route request invokes a new incoming route response that in turn invokes a routing script to be executed in the ICM server. Now, step 5, ICM will go through the script, and at some point it is decided that it is going to return a response, and that response will return it will return a label as a response. And because the call came from the PG, that response will go to PG itself. Step number 5. So ICM returns a routing label to the CVP call server. So now steps CVP right here is the call server that receives that request label. Once CVP server returns a message, step 6, CVP server will return a message to the VXML server with that routing label. So within that CVP, so from the call server, that message, the label will now go to the VXML service. Now step number 7, VXML will return to the VXML gateway. So that means VXML server will return the label to the gateway, which is in this case is the ingress router, as well as VXML gateway itself. Now at step 7, what is happening is it is possible that depending on how the script instruct the CVP what to do, it is possible that VXML could include reference to the ASR IP address or media server IP address for playing prompt, or collection of digit, or even can transfer the instruction based on the label itself. Step 8, VXML gateway or the voice gateway can optionally transfer the call to any destination that it can deliver. Now in this example, the call is being delivered to a call manager. As you can see, step 8 goes to this direction. Step 9, call manager and the gateway establish a connection. And step 10 is call manager will set up a call between the agent phone and that extension of the agent phone. Let's say the extension is 2001. That extension is what came in step number 5 as a label. Okay, and that is going like this. Okay. So step 9, call manager tells the voice gateway that, hey, to reach extension 2001, here is the IP address 1.1.1. That could be the IP address of the phone. And at the same time, call manager send a message, ring the phone, because call manager has to set up the call. So step 10 is going to ring the phone. So this is pretty much an example of a very simple call flow. Now you got to understand in this scenario is that this particular call flow returns only a routing label from a result of execution of routing script in ICM due to a new call dialog which was requested in step number 4 between the ICM and CVP. Now running an external script or providing a queue is not supported at this kind of variable. So this means that there is no IVR functionality at this moment. It is simply when the agent is available. Okay, so because ICM did found the extension of the agent was available, ICM did its job and the call went reverse and in order to complete the call. So that's one example. Next, I will show you a more comprehensive example. Number 2, I'm going to give you more comprehensive call flow that includes either SIP proxy server, or you can put another like call manager server in between that. So again, just making sure it's recording. Yeah. the call is coming in from your PSTN or VoIP connection into the gateway is step number 1. Now the ingress gateway, step 2, will send a SIP invite message. So this is where the invite message comes in. Now, when a gateway sends a SIP invite message to proxy server, depending on whether it's a delay proxy or early proxy, delay offer or early offer, either a single SIP invite message will be sent or invite plus SDP message will be sent. Now, SIP proxy server will forward this SIP invite message to the CVP server, and from the previous scenario slide, you probably you heard about that CVP is running multiple service. So this will go to the SIP service on the CVP server, because CVP server is also a SIP server itself. Now step 4, SIP service from the CVP will send a new call request to the unified ICM or UCCE server via the ICM service and the PG. So right here inside this CVP, that's a choice of wrong color. Inside this CVP right here, this is the ICM service. And this is a SIP service. So it's going to send it to the ICM service. ICM service is going to send a request to the PG server. Now, once it goes to the PG, step number 5, CVP SIPs ICM service send a request to PG. PG will then forward that request or initiate a route request via the routing script in the ICM in the step number 5. So CVP will send a request, a new call request to ICM. ICM is going to look at the number the user dialed, match a ICM routing script, and then execute the script. Now, as the ICM executed the script, it realized that the caller must be transferred to IVR platform because there is no agent available. Or maybe you want to further, get some information from the caller, like for example their PIN number, their account number, something like that. So step number 6, what the ICM is going to do is going to transfer the call back to VRU. In this case, the VRU is the PG server, and pass something called connect to VRU request to the PG. So ICM is telling the PG that, hey, can you connect this call to the VRU PG, which will be forwarded to the ICM service in step number 7. It will come back right here. As you can see, this is ICM service within the CVP server. So PG will pass the information provided in step number 6 to the ICM service that is running on the CVP call server. Now, CVP on step number 8, a connect to VRU's request goes from CVP service back to the proxy server, requiring the proxy server to determine which gateway to use. So now the ICM service that receives a call is going to pass that call to this. This is a SIP service. SIP service is going to send a request on step 8 to the proxy saying, hey, can you find the best VXML gateway to route the call? Now obviously SIP will have his own routing table, which will ultimately decide what is going to do. Step 9, invitation is sent from the SIP proxy server right here to the VXML gateway, which will then connect an audio path back to the ingress gateway. So you have audio files will come from the media server. All the audio prompt like welcome to voice bootcamp or please enter your account number, those files are stored right here. So there will be an RTP path between that. It will connect the information. Then step 10, VXML, VRU label, which caused the VXML gateway to fire off an application dial pair, which will start the VRU or the application leg of the call. So now the gateway connects the CVP call server via HTTP and requests instruction for further treatment. A new HTTP call request will come on in step number 10. Back to the CVP server, but this time this service right here goes to the VXML service or IVR services. Step 11, ICM service send the route request instruction to the ICM via the PG. Call goes back to ICM for further treatment. Now at this stage, when the call comes back to step 12, it goes back to the same script that was actually invoked on step number 5. Now remember how the call was returned back on step 6, 7, and 8? Well, that was basically the ICM script telling CVP what to do with the call. But that script in ICM was also continuously running. So when that step 10, 11, and 12, the traffic came back to ICM, it actually came back to the same script. And then now this ICM script is going to take further action. So that means it could ask the caller for more details, can ask the CVP to collect digit or whatever the instruction the script is going to do. So this is basically goes back and forth between ICM and CVP and VXML gateway until an agent becomes available. Now, once agent becomes available, so let's assume an agent did become available at this stage. Step 13 is to return the extension of that agent back to the PG. So what ICM will do will dequeue the call, ask to disconnect from the VXML gateway. ICM will pass connect to agent request to CVP server ICM service via the PG. So again, this step number 14, PG will then pass the information provided in step 13 to the ICM service. So this is right here is again back to ICM service. Okay, that's step 14. Now step 15, CVP SIP service will pass this VRU disconnect request to the proxy. Now the SIP service right here send a disconnect request to the SIP proxy. That is the step number 15. Now step 16, SIP proxy server will pass a disconnect message to the VXML gateway, and connect to agent request will be sent to the SIP proxy to the call manager in step 16. So the call manager receives the extension. Obviously, call manager knows that extension belongs to his agent. That's where the phone is registered. Once it rings the phone, the call manager is going to send a disconnect message to the unified PG, which connects the call manager to the ICM. And the purpose of the step number 17 is a call manager needs to inform the PG saying that the call was successfully delivered to the agent so that ICM knows and that the call has been successful. PG will then notify the ICM then the call has been delivered to the UCCE agent. So as you can see, this is the call process when you have IVR involved, where the call is being queued or further call treatments taking place, and so and so. The next few slides will walk you through more advanced call flow. But before you go to that, what I wanted to cover is that a call flow, and as it happened, which component or which configuration within the system that gets invoked. So this is the overall call flow between as the call coming in till to the agent. Now let's take a look at switch leg. A call is coming in from the ingress gateway. A customer has dialed this toll-free number. Portion of that number will be delivered to the SIP to the call server. Now this is a SIP service. That call server will connect to ICM. ICM will then send a new route request to the ICM service will send a new route request to the UCCE server with this direct DN number. UCCE server will match this DN to a dial number, and then therefore the dial number will be mapped to a script. So this is your script. As the script execute, at some point within the script, what we will hit this point where it says send to VRU, meaning send the calls to CVP or IP-IVR. UCCE will send the label of the CVP server, how to reach the CVP, a temporary connection back to CVP, or PG, and then PG will send it to CVP, of course, connect to the CVP. Now, in the CVP server, there's a static route that says any call with 4999, send it to this IP address. And that IP address happens to be this gateway right here, the VXML gateway. An invite message from the CVP comes in. As the call coming to the VXML gateway, this is step right here. As a call comes into the VXML gateway, that call will match a local dial pair matching incoming call number 4999T. Purpose of that statement, or purpose of matching this incoming call to that particular dial pair, so that this application can be executed. Service bootstrap. Once that is one of the main first script within the VXML gateway that will get executed. Now, the purpose of that script, of course, is to initiate VXML gateway. Once it execute this service bootstrap, is going to open another application to initiate a new call. Oops, let me erase the numbers. All right, so it's going to open this application called new call. Ultimately, an HTTP request goes back to CVP. Now, this stage right here, this is your VXML service, not the IVR, not the ICM, VXML service. Now, from there, a connection between UCCE and CVP will go back and forth for IVR treatment. You know, press 1 to do this, press 2 to do that, so and so. So at some point, agent will become available. And when that agent does become available, so the extension of the agent is 2001, UCCE server will send the extension of the agent as a label back to CVP to transfer the call when it does become available. CVP sends an invite request to call manager with the label 2001. Call manager knows that 2001 is one of the phone that is registered to itself, and the call will get connected. So that is what's taking place, and as each step the call comes in, and I'll show you which component or which configuration it is affecting. The next I'm going to show you is more advanced call flow example from one of the company in Toronto, so that you can see how complex it can be. So this is an example of a real world call flow from one of our clients, also provided to me, a friend of mine. Now, I'm going to explain you to the step-by-step as to what's happening to this particular call flow so that you can get a better understanding. Now, this is a scenario where a call comes in, but there's no agent available, which is marked by yellow color. As you can see, the circle of numbers. And the pink color that you see is when the agent does become available and call goes from the queue to the agent. So let me make sure my recording is done. Yeah. All right. So this is the topology on the right hand side, and on the left hand side, I'm going to explain each step of what's really happening. So first, the customer dials the help desk number. So imagine that little cell phone right there. That is your customer who's calling in. The call goes to PSTN. PSTN will deliver the call to your gateway. And step number 2, this is my gateway right here. On that particular gateway, well, an application, IVR application will be triggered. Now imagine we're going to assume that the call from the PSTN comes through all sorts of hoopla, gateways, call manager, whatnot. but the call will ultimately come into this IVR application that is residing on this little box that you see right here. So we will call that IVR. That's where the application will be triggered. Now IVR will notify the VRU PG on step number 4, that little circle that you see. A notification goes all the way to the VRU PG that's sitting right here, indicating that there's a new call coming in. Step 5, basically in that message, basically indicate that the caller has requested to transfer to an agent. So step 5 is not really an action, it's basically an information that is being carried after IVR notifies the VRU page, PG that a new call is coming in. So step 5 contains that information that caller wants to transfer the call to an agent. Step 6, which is right here, a VRU PG will request a route from the ICM, which will trigger a script. Because obviously in the UCCE, there's a number 7 right here, what I'm circling. That's where the VRU is, sorry, the ICM script is, or UCCE script. The script will look something like this. Start the script, translate to VRU. As soon as you start the script, your next step is called translate to VRU. Now translate to VRU meaning you're telling the system that this call requires to transfer to an agent, let's say to an agent, so to CVP or IP IVR server. We're going to select agent based on longest available agent. That is a little bit of a misspelling. Based on skills group sales US, sales India. Queue the call to skills group for sales US, sales India in case agent is not available. And when an agent is not available, we're going to send the call to VRU, meaning that send it to CVP. We're going to, once a CVP has been connected, we're going to run external script, agent not available, which will say, sorry, all of our agents are busy, please stay on the line, somebody will answer your call momentarily. And then we're going to run a wait music, you play music while the customer wait. And then we're going to go to step queue to skills group to loop until an agent does become available. So that's what's happening in step number 7. Now step number 8, as soon as step 2 within the script is actually hit right here where it says translate to VRU, as soon as it hits that, the UCCE router will send a temporary label of how to reach the VRU PG. So as soon as it hits that, it's going to dial the number that allows you to reach the CVP PG, a voice gateway. So using a translation trunk line. CVP PG is advised that a call is coming from a VRU, from an IVR through a specific trunk line, which is step number 9. This is happening right here. So while he returns, in step 8, while he returns the label back to the IVR, UCCE router also tells the CVP PG that, hey, you're expecting a new call from that particular trunk line. Temporary label will be sent back to IVR application, which is step number right here, 10. Right here, a call came back to the IVR. IVR send that call back to the PSTN through step 11, because obviously the call has to go out to the PSTN to be able to dial this number 416-514-9999. Now this number will be sent back to PSTN, and at the same time, when IVR hand the call over back to service provider like Bell or TELUS, step 12, IVR has to notify through the step number 12 to the VRU PG right here, IVR VRU PG, saying that I have completed the call using GED protocol 125. So he hand over the call to PSTN, IVR app server right here in the middle, notifying the VRU that I have completed the call, because remember that's the PG that actually initiated the label or request. Call hits step 13. Call hits the PSTN, and then ultimately that number leads to this voice gateway. Now, as the call coming into voice gateway requests a route for this particular phone number, step 14, and you'll notice the 14 is right here to the gatekeeper. Is looking for what do I do with this number. Gatekeeper or the voice or cube will ultimately give you the destination for this particular number, and so therefore the destination at how to reach that number will be sent back to the voice gateway. Voice gateway will signal the CVP voice browser on step number 16. So step number 16, there will be a SIP, some sort of dial pair, which will send the calls to SIP CVP and the voice browser within the CVP server. Step 17, CVP is going to trigger an application that is running on the CVP application server, the VXML. So that's the script that take over the call at that moment. Now, the application server, which is right here, has a route request instruction is sent to step number 18 to the CVP PG, ultimately asking the ICM that, hey, what do I do with this call? At the same time, an injunction is done where the control and the data will be passed to CVP. So therefore, what's happening is now the voice gateway is no longer the requesting of the call. CVP now becomes a requesting of the call. So that's where it says the control and the data will be passed to the CVP PG. So the CVP PG becomes a new routing client. At this moment, the step 2 is completed. The script on the initially that is started will continue. And as it continues, it will go through the whole process where step 4, skills group, it found out there's no agent available in that particular group. Step 21, identified that there is no agent available. Step 22, instructions sent back from the ICM back to the CVP saying that, hey, agent is not available, so play the music call agent not available. So instruction at this moment came back to PG. PG send that information to the CVP app server saying you need to play agent not available music, which is kind of an audio file. Step 24, play agent not available music will be forwarded to the browser. As you can see, this is number 24 right here. Just try to follow the number. Step 25, same music file will be forwarded to voice browser, which is right back to the gateway. And ultimately, the gateway plays the music to the caller, because that's where the call came in from PSTN, remember that. So this is happening when agent is not available and caller is hearing the music file. Now assume that agent does become available. So what we're going to do, agent become available. The extension of the agent is 2001. So agent right here has logged in to call manager and a finance server, whatnot. Extension 2000 is available. What the call manager is going to do, the call manager is going to notify the call manager CUCM PG that will advise ICM that agent is available through the JTAPI protocol. Agent is selected in the ICM because obviously agent is logged in through the finance. So agent will be selected. A reservation request is made to the unified PG or call manager PG for extension 2001. So what's happening on step 30 is that UCCE reserve the agent extension, tell the call manager that we have reserved it through the JTAPI and GED 125, and then UCCE will request interruption saying to the CVP saying, okay, call is being transferred, please interrupt this particular call. So an execution interruption will be executed from the UCCE to the CVP. UCCE will then send the label of 2001 to the CVP PG. So that is step number 31, somewhere right here. Look, now try to follow the pink color. Step 32, UCCE request at the same time. So 32 will be right here. The PG will send that information to the app server. App server will then send that information to 33 to the voice browser. Voice browser notifies the voice gateway, which is 34, that please stop the music. We need to transfer this call. Since it stops the music, voice gateway will now request a route for the extension 2001. So voice gateway must have a path or knows how to route the call to extension 2001. Now, voice gateway will then request the gatekeeper or the cube saying, what do I do with 2001? Gatekeeper or cube on step 36 returns the IP address of the device that can route the call to extension 2001, and in this case technically the call manager. Now voice gateway requests the call manager to request extension 2001. Voice gateway requests the call manager to ring the extension 2001. This is when the agent phone is ringing. Call manager rings the extension. Agent answers the call. And this is a good time when the screen pop-up can occur where all the data that you want to pass to the agent will take place at this step number 40. So as you can see, if you really follow the step-by-step, repeat this call flow 100 times if you have to, this particular call flow will become like very easy to understand. And once you understand that, you will get a good vibe in terms of how these different components are actually talking to each other. All right, so that's pretty much it for this call flow. Make sure call flow, as I said earlier, the call flow is one of the most important aspects of UCCE solution. Master the call flow over and over until you're 100% sure you understand, and when you do it over and over again until you get bored of it, or you can do it in your sleep. You can explain it in your sleep, you can talk about it, you can like, you know exactly which step was taking place. So that's pretty much it for our call flow in this chapter, and I will see you in the next.